The story under analysis is The End of the Party, written by Graham Greene. Graham Greene was an English novelist. He is considered to be one of the leading English novelists of the 20th century. The End of the Party is a short story which was first published in 1929. Some critics believe that this story is a classical expression of the English tradition of horror fiction. Graham Greene was born in a big family. Also, he was the fourth of the six children. I believe that this might have influenced his works. He had to face bullying at school and attempt suicide several times. He was unhappy at school and grew up without necessary support from his family and friends. The story is set in the Norton and Ham Falcon's houses. The time of action is 1929, and we also know the particular date. It's the 5th of January. The author is really interested in showing such small details to the reader, and it is very good. It makes the reader feel the atmosphere, feel the time, and be closer to the main characters. The story is a third-person narrative. It is being told by an unnamed narrator who sees the events from his side and let the reader see what has happened and how the main characters feel and think. That indicates that the narrator is omniscient. The story describes how the main characters, two brothers, Francis and Peter Morton, try to overcome Francis' fear of darkness and what can be a result of such fear. The story begins when Francis wakes up and realizes that he's scared to death because of the darkness and doesn't want to go to the party. His brother Peter suggests that he might have had a cold and persuades his brother to tell their parents about his illness. Francis agrees and tries hard to avoid attending a children's party. He also recalls one situation, the last time he and his friends went to the party. They played hide and seek game, and a girl scared him so much that he shouted. He's still ashamed of this, and that one more reason of him not going to the party. He is afraid of the repetition of these events. The rising moment of the story is Boy's attempts to stay at home. He pretends to have a cold, tells his mother and nanny about his unwillingness to go, but adults do not listen to him. Here we meet the theme of child's isolation and ignorance from adults for the first time. The mother and nanny are indifferent to the fact that Francis is scared to death, that he doesn't want even to go out. The climax of the story is when the game hide and seek begins and Francis finds himself horrified alone. His brother tries to reassure him, but it doesn't help. The tension grows as Peter feels that something is happening to his brother. The denouement is remarkable for its bad end. When the lights are turned back on, Francis is dead. The tone and the mood of the story are changing from the beginning to the end. The atmosphere created in the story is tense and becomes unpleasant to final. The reader sympathizes with the main characters and in the very beginning, and the reader is captured by pleasant atmosphere of the room where boys live. Then we are furious and surprised by the indifference of parents and nanny, whose child is scared but they still force him to go. During the game, the reader is worried about Francis, and then we meet unpleasant and shocking final to everyone who reads this story. The author encapsulates many significant moral issues, including fear, human relationship, ignorance, support, rash actions, and loneliness. I believe that the story mostly touches upon the theme of fear and rash actions and also loneliness. To begin with, Francis is not only afraid to go into the party, but most of all, he's afraid of the darkness. The author highlights to the reader that there are two conflicts, external and internal. The external conflict is in Francis's attitude toward people. He is ashamed of what had happened at the party, at the previous party. He doesn't want to see the children, and the situation of meeting one of the girls in the park shows that. He is afraid of them. He feels uncomfortable in children's company, as no one except his brother Peter understands his fears. What is more, there is a confrontation of Francis on the one side and adults on the other side. First of all, there are his close family, mother and nanny, who force him to go to the party despite his unwillingness and poor health. What is more, they show absolute indifference and disregard to his feelings. That's not the way parents should act. He's a little boy, he's scared, and they are his closest protection, but they pay no attention to him. Then there is the host of the event, Mrs. Hamfalcon, who is also called to the boys' state or children's wishes. She is that kind of powerful and principled woman who allows play games which are only on her list, and these games must be played without question, so as the game hide and seek. Then the internal conflict is in Francis's fear of dark. He's afraid of it, it scares him. We see it from the very beginning when Peter wakes him up and tells him about him dreaming a nightmare. Peter seems to be the only person in the story who takes into account and pays serious attention to his brother's state. Francis can't stay in darkness for a long time, he is paralyzed by it, and then it leads to an unhappy end. Francis doesn't get support which he needs, and we see to what actions it has led. The author also deals with the problem of people's rash actions. To begin with, mother and nanny don't take Francis's fears seriously. They might have happened. That might have happened because of them being in a hurry preparing for the party, or they are too busy to understand deeply what Francis is talking about. Despite his resistance, they not only force him to go, but also they force him to play the scariest game for him. They can't imagine what can be a result. They don't think everything over, and they are not interested in child's emotions. Another example of rash actions is shown in Peter's attempts to calm Francis. He doesn't think that his touch can scare his brother more than anything in the darkness. Of course, he wants the best for his brother, but he makes it in a bad way, and he doesn't think over his actions. As for me, the story is very informative for both parents and children. What is more, it teaches us to be more delicate to other people's feelings and wishes. Sometimes we lack this ability nowadays, and we think only about ourselves and how comfortable are we, but not other people. And what is more, people sometimes do not think over their actions, and they do not think over the consequences, but just do things. And this story greatly shows what results can be, that we must think over our actions, we must be sensitive, we must pay attention to the feelings of other person, and what is more, we must pay attention to child's fears, because when you are a child, you don't understand how to cope with many problems. You don't understand how to face your fears and how to deal with them, how to fight with them. And this experience we learn only by being an adult, by experiencing some things in life, by facing some situations. And our role as parents is in showing the is in showing our children how he or she can cope with anything, and pay great attention to our child's emotional state too.